Well, blessed Monday to you as we come to you with your daily encouragement, and we are in the middle of page 68 here. Dietrich Bonhoeffer says in Life Together, the Day Together, the fellowship of the table has a festive quality. It is constantly recurring reminder in the midst of everyday work, God's resting after his work, of the Sabbath as the meaning and goal of the week and its toil. Our life is not only travail and labor, it is refreshment and joy in the goodness of God. We labor, but God nourishes and sustains us. And this is the reason for celebrating. Man should not eat but bread of sorrows, as it says. Man should not eat bread of sorrows, as it says in Psalm 127:2. Rather, eat thy bread with joy, Ecclesiastes 9:7. I commend mirth be our celebration, because a man hath no better thing under the sun than to eat and drink and be merry. Once again, Ecclesiastes 8:15. But of course, who can eat or who can have enjoyment apart from him? It is said of the 70 elders of Israel who went up to Mount Sinai, that with Moses and Aaron, that they beheld God and did eat and drink. And that's from Exodus 24:11. God cannot endure that unfestive, mirthless attitude of ours in which we eat our bread in sorrow, with pretentious busy haste, even with shame. Through our daily meals, he is calling us to rejoice, to keep holiday in the midst of our working day. Now, I think that is a very interesting thing. Once again, we said yesterday last Friday about keeping our daily dinner in concept of also our Holy Communion that we celebrate with others. Both are a meal together. But we might say that we don't always think of our daily meal as something of a festive nature. And I will include myself. While we did have prayer at table, we also had times where we ate and we didn't have prayer. And I'm not blaming my parents or my way of bringing up for that. I'm just saying that I have a tendency to eat, and I have a tendency to forget that all gifts come from God. And so this is where, while there isn't any commandment saying you must pray at every meal, this is showing us that we need to have a desire to pray for every time we eat. And to ask ourselves, are we taking time off to eat? Or are we just viewing eating as an interruption to get on with life? Meals need to be the sustenance of life. And they need to be focused on the giver, who is God, and the revealed giver, who is Jesus Christ. And while these are not meals of where we lift up the bread and say, this is my body, or this is my blood, these are meals of reminder that all gifts come from God and for the purpose of Jesus Christ. And so while not all meals are communion, they should lead us to communion. While not all meals are in heaven above, they should get us to think about the meal, the great banquet we will have in heaven above. And so all of these things kind of work together to contemplate that Jesus is our reality. And as it said, there are 7 days in the week, and all days should lead to the Sabbath, which is considered a day of rest, where the focus is on the day of celebration, the day of meal, the day of recognizing that life is not just working a whole bunch of hours like a slave. In fact, that's one of the interpretations of the Sabbath, at least according to Deuteronomy. According to Exodus, the Sabbath is imitation of God resting on the seventh day. In Deuteronomy, it is a model of we are not slaves to our work, we are servants of God. And so that seventh day, that day of rest, is considered a day of marking out that we belong to someone else. And for a Christian, it is not just about celebrating one day above others, but is making sure that even in our workday, we can have a little Sabbath meal, a little Sabbath rest, where we can once again reorient our lives, our focus, to the reality of the one who created heaven and earth and all gifts, Jesus Christ. And so, once again, Dietrich Bonhoeffer in this passage is tying in Sunday morning communion with everyday table fellowship. He's combining the whole idea of we have a daily life, but it is connected to our Sabbath life, the day of rest. Now, as a Christian, we also can say that that day of rest could be one day out of the week, or it could be these little Sabbaths 7 days a week. They're still open to that interpretation, I think, no matter how you take your understanding of Sabbath, because Luther, even in his explanation, you must remember, of the third commandment simply says, we should not neglect God's word or the hearing of it, but regard it as holy and gladly hear and learn it. Sabbath is about hearing God's word, and it is not necessarily about what day you hear God's word. It's about making sure that you make God's word not only part of your workday, but you have concentrated time, if not a day, dedicated to it. So why we might assume it is either Saturday or Sunday or another day, we're reminded to make sure that God's word, God's gift, God's Sabbath rest of His Word, Him speaking to us, becomes part of our everyday life. God bless you today. We trust that these continue to be words of encouragement. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.